Hey folks, this is Kelani. We're in one of those typical content lulls once again, partway between two patches with nothing to speed up the process in the waiting room. All we can do is tinker about with whatever characters are still semi-interesting and try to get a plus 10 key done so we can cross our fingers for some cool loot on reset day. It's not really that unexpected either. The time between launch and the first patch of any expansion has typically had a bit of a lull, with Legion being the main exception because they pushed out patch 7.1 extremely quickly. But I think a lot of people have got a lot more frustrated with Battle for Azeroth a lot faster than previous expansions. The joke of beta for Azeroth still waiting to be launched is definitely making the rounds, and it feels like a lot of people are very disappointed so far. So patch 8.1 is looming just over the horizon. We have a release date now, December 11th. That puts it at just over 3 weeks away from when this video is going to go up. We've still got a bit of waiting to do, but will the wait be worth it? Will patch 8.1 be enough to save the Battle for Azeroth and to bring back the players who decided this X-Pack isn't worth their time? Will 8.1 revitalize the player base enough to the point where they want to take part in various types of content and people actually log in for more than just their raid days? Let's have a look under the hood and see where we stand with patch 8.1 so far. So obviously, if players aren't too happy, there's got to be a few issues floating around, right? Well, probably more than a few. What is patch 8.1 going to do to address some of those concerns? One of the big ones is Azeroth armor, and while it seems like a lot of people just want the dev team to scrap the entire thing, they're never going to do that. Not until the next expansion at any rate, where something else will probably replace it and hopefully won't be another step backwards. So if they aren't going to remove it, the least they can do is make it a little more interesting or exciting, right? Well, they're going to try in patch 8.1. There's a new vendor coming in which will allow you to take currency earned from a weekly mythic plus cash and work towards random pieces of Azeroth armor at various item levels. So you can just straight up buy a random helm, then a random shoulder, and then a random chest, and be guaranteed a certain item level for those slots. After that, you can work on very specific pieces of Azeroth armor as a long-term goal. It's definitely a step in the right direction. We won't have to solely rely on RNG to get the Azeroth armor or traits that we're interested in, which will definitely be a nice change, but the specific pieces are going to take a long time to acquire. Perhaps a little too long, but remember that these are mythic raid quality items. That's the highest item level stuff you can get, so that's probably why there's a lengthy timer attached to acquiring them. The other main Azeroth problem is the traits. Most of them are boring and passive, others are brokenly OP and more or less a requirement. That's a balancing issue, and we know there's going to be a little bit of balancing being done in 8.1, but we'll also see some new traits for every class and spec. Hopefully those two efforts combined will help address the problem with traits, but with how the system works, I don't think we'll ever reach a perfect resolution on that front. Some traits will always be the best, no matter what happens, so it's just a question of what those traits end up being. I wouldn't say the Azeroth armor issues are completely resolved, but we're heading in a better direction for sure. Other types of content are suffering from the same problems when it comes to rewards. Warfronts don't have too much on offer outside of helping your alts to catch up with gearing, and island expeditions are so incredibly random that we still don't know how they work 100%. Apparently we should be getting a little more info about how islands determine loot sometime soon, but 8.1 will also be introducing a vendor which will allow you to work towards some of the rewards by saving up your doubloons. Most of the rewards cost quite a lot, so you're going to have to be pretty picky with what you want, but at least there's another goal to actually work towards instead of just hoping for some good RNG. Warfronts will also see a new currency and a vendor with new mounts, transmog toys, all the usual good stuff, so they won't just be about the gear rewards from running the Warfronts. You can run them over and over again to collect this new currency and to spend on shiny new rewards. That's definitely something these two pieces of content have been missing this entire time, an active goal to work towards and a handful of rewards you can get on your own terms. Currencies and vendors seem to solve that problem pretty well. I'll be very interested to see if this encourages more players to take part in islands and Warfronts outside of the usual weekly rewards, but honestly part of the problem is probably the content itself. I really don't think islands or Warfronts have really filled the shoes they were supposed to, but maybe things will get better as more maps and rewards are added. There is a new heroic mode coming later on down the line for Warfronts, which could be very interesting. You can only queue as a pre-made group and things are supposed to be a lot harder. Maybe a challenge is what's missing. If so, the heroic mode could help solve that problem too, but that's not coming in patch 8.1. As for island expeditions, the way that they generate and spawn enemies is going to be changing a little bit as well. Expect to see a lot more clumped up monsters guarding treasure chests instead of a crazy amount of monsters just spread out over the entire island. That might make rare farming a little easier, which should also help with acquiring the rare rewards on the Island Expeditions loot tables. So while patch 8.1 might not make either the Warfront or the Island Expedition system significantly more interesting to actually play through, the patch should provide you with quite a few extra rewards should you decide to hop back into either of those types of content. There's also been quite a lot of concerns regarding classes and how they play. Part of this might be because several classes and specs didn't really change much from the end of Legion, so players are just getting a little bored of the same old. Losing our artifacts also left a lot of gaps in several specs, and there are definitely a few who have every right to be annoyed with the current state of the game. As you might expect from a major patch, there are several class changes coming in 8.1, but whether or not they're going to address your specific concerns will depend on who you are and what you play. I know Shadow Priests are sort of happy about the changes, but they still have a few issues here and there. Elemental Shamans will see actual changes to how some of their abilities work and interact, which should make a few Shamans a little happier, hopefully, at least happier than Enhancement Shamans at any rate, who only have some talent adjustments right now. I wouldn't expect sweeping changes in 8.1 for anyone else, but I would have liked to see more impactful changes for the classes which were left behind going into BfA, which is those 3 specs specifically. We'll have to wait until 8.1 goes live to see the true extent of any class changes and tuning, as they can change the numbers at the last minute and it's usually the last thing they do anyway. But I don't think many of these problems are being fully addressed in patch 8.1, which is definitely a disappointment. Thankfully, there are a handful of improvements coming to other areas of the game, including a massive nerf, or buff, depending on how you want to look at it, to the amount of experience required to level throughout the entire game. It works out at about 22% reduction in experience required from 20 to 120, and some levels have been reduced by a whopping 40%. So if you're waiting for something big to come around to get all of those alts leveled up, or maybe even to switch character, 8.1 will be a fantastic time to level up. There's also going to be changes to your progression at max level, which should help with any alts you're wanting to play. The Champions of Azeroth reputation rewards will become account-wide, so as long as you have one character with revered or higher rep, all of your alts should be able to pick up every item level reward for the Heart of Azeroth without having to get the required rep again, which should make getting up to speed much easier. If reputations are something you're interested in, every exalted rep you have will also count towards the meta achievements on an account-wide basis after 8.1 goes live as well, so you might be sitting on a new title without even knowing it, and all you have to do when 8.1 hits is to log on to every character that has some unique exalted reps. Easy peasy. That's definitely going to be something to take your mind off of swapping mains, if you have a lot of exalted reputations at least. But it's not just about fixing the problems with the content we already have, we need some new, fresh, juicy content to sink our teeth into and sate our appetite. So what does patch 8.1 add on to the menu? Actually, it's adding quite a lot. There's going to be several new chapters added onto the war campaign to tell the story of how we go from where we are right now to the Alliance knocking down the front doors of Dazar Allure. We'll also see how each faction uses the fleet they just acquired and what happens when this faction conflict starts to boil over. Alongside the war campaigns, we'll also see the introduction of incursions or assaults. These are basically a reskin Legion invasion, but instead of the Legion invading our world, we're just invading each other. The Horde will try to secure a beachhead on Kulturas, while the Alliance will do the same on Zandalar. You can help your faction in these incursions, or try to defend your zone when it's being invaded. They're actually quite a lot of fun, and they also reward the same currency as the Warfronts in patch 8.1, so you can work towards some fun rewards as well. They're also pretty decent for speeding up your leveling from 110 to 120, as you can do them below max level, and they reward you a 10% increase to experience for an hour. There's going to be new story quests which explore the past of various NPCs like Sylvanas, Sarfang, Vol'jin, Tyrande, the Proudmoore family, and even Xal'atath. It's going to be pretty lore heavy by the sounds of things, and if you're not too interested in hopping into another island or another warfront, maybe a good story or two will be right up your alley. Speaking of another warfront is going to be added in 8.1 as well. Darkshore will become another max level outdoor zone with rares, world quests, and even a new world boss, and a new series of contributions will open up to allow you to take part in the Warfront scenario as well. This one plays out quite a bit better than the Arathi Highlands one in my opinion. It's more story focused with a pretty cool introduction sequence instead of everything being base versus base from the get-go. Give it a shot. I know Arathi didn't turn out all that well, Warfronts are kinda getting a bad rap, but it's not too bad. Give it a shot. 2 islands will also be joining the random rotation for island expeditions, so a few extra maps to romp around on might help break up some of the monotony, but probably not. And just in case you love to collect things, there's also going to be a new heritage armor set added for 2 of the older races, one for the dwarves and one for the blood elves. Both of these sets look amazing, and they have practically no restrictions tied to them. You need a max level dwarf or blood elf, and be exalted with Ironforge or Silvermoon, obviously depending on your faction. That's it. There's a brief questline which takes you through the history of your race and what it means to be a blood elf or a dwarf, and then you get a very shiny set to run around in to make all of the other races jealous. As you might expect, there's also various new mounts, pets, toys from pretty much every type of content that's being added in patch 8.1, and if you thought you were done with reputation, the old Paragon system from Legion is making a return, so you can earn reputation past Exalted to collect some goodie boxes which might, or might not, probably not, have some of the new mounts and pets and stuff. At least that gives us a reason to get those emissaries done. The content seems to be there for patch 8.1. We should have plenty to do. My main worry actually comes from adding more Warfront and Island Expedition maps though. Those 2 forms of content just didn't seem to stick at all, which is a little bizarre. I recently did quite a lot of Warfronts from my priest because I wanted to gear up fairly quickly. That's what the Warfronts seem to be used for, to catch up on gear. Sadly, that doesn't really seem to be any different for Darkshore, but hopefully, the currency and all that will help Warfront rewards. But as soon as you have the gear right now, you just don't have a reason to really ever go back until the cycle comes around and then you do one Warfront. Is that okay? Part of me wants to think that's okay. I don't need to be running Warfronts all the time, but I never really think, you know what sounds fun right now? A Warfront. Let's go do a Warfront. I only ever hop in when the loot box comes around, and that's probably not even worth it on my main anymore. The same goes for islands. I've only been doing islands recently for when I want to level an alt. I don't even do it for the AP anymore. I never go out of my way to take part in islands. Will adding more reliable rewards to both of those systems encourage players to run them? I guess we'll have to see. I do wonder if the dev team will ever drop Warfronts or islands though. Will they ever just say, this isn't drawing enough attention anymore, and call it a day? So the content seems to be there, but I would question how long some of it is going to last. When patch 8.1 hits live service on December 11th, I think we'll be in a much better spot when compared to right now. We'll have more to do, we'll have more reasons to do it, and several large issues are being worked on if they haven't been resolved. I think patch 8.1 is going to be a good patch and bring back quite a few players, but the main thing I'm excited for comes after December. Sometime in January we'll see the release of Battle for Azeroth Season 2. This includes the new raid, Battle of Desire Lore, a new Mythic Plus affix for keys above 10 called Reaping, a new PvP season, and a whole new ring to every piece of Azerite gear. I think Season 2 is where Battle for Azeroth will really get its revival. 8.1 lays the groundwork, gives it a little bit to tide us over until January and the new year, and then bam, Season 2 barrels out of the door and kicks us in the butt and all of the subscribers come piling back in. That's how I imagine it in my head anyways. So will patch 8.1 be enough to save Battle for Azeroth? Maybe not on its own, but we're heading in the right direction. Most issues should be less painful in 8.1, we'll probably have enough to keep us busy for a little bit, and we only have to wait around about a month for another content drop to come our way. With 8.1 and Season 2 combined, I'm going to have a lot of fun in Azeroth. How do you feel about patch 8.1 and Season 2? Are you holding out for the new raid? Are you also interested in the new Warfront, new islands, and Azerite armor vendor? Leave all your thoughts in the comments section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon. You can see their names floating by on screen. Good chaps. Lovely people. If you want to join them, you can find a link in the description below. Remember to leave a like just below the video before you leave, and if you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. But apart from that, thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always, I will see you next time.